What happens when one of Hollywood's most beloved actresses is caught off guard by a talk show host who thinks he can corner her live on air? Tonight we're diving into a fiery on-screen clash that set social media ablaze. The moment Jennifer Lawrence stood her ground against Stephen Colbert's relentless line of questioning and reached a breaking point that no one saw coming. But before we unpack this unforgettable confrontation, don't forget to hit subscribe and drop your thoughts. In the comments, was this a fair interview or a calculated ambush? Let's get into it. The atmosphere inside the Late Show studio was electric as Stephen Colbert wrapped up his opening monologue to roaring applause. The audience was primed for a charming, lighthearted sit-down with Jennifer Lawrence. But as the cheers faded, something subtle shifted in Colbert's demeanor. His trademark smile took on a sharper, more calculated edge. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Academy Award-winning actress Jennifer Lawrence, he announced with his usual flair. Jennifer stepped out radiant, glowing in a sleek black dress. The crowd erupted in a standing ovation as she waved and made her way to the guest chair. She appeared totally at ease, settling in for what she assumed would be another fun, friendly exchange. "Jennifer, welcome back to the show," Colbert said, his voice warm, but carrying an undertone she didn't immediately notice. "Thanks for having me, Stephen. It's always great to be here," she replied with a genuine smile that lit up the studio. They began with the usual, her latest film, where she plays a woman navigating a dark psychological journey. Jennifer dove into the role, passionately describing her preparation, the emotional weight of the character, and the creative collaboration with her director and cast. She was in her element. Then the tone shifted. "That sounds incredibly intense," Colbert said, nodding. "Speaking of demanding situations, there's something I have to ask you." Jennifer's expression tensed slightly. "There've been some reports online about your behavior on set. Some pretty serious allegations regarding how you treat crew members." Her smile faltered. "I'm sorry. What reports?" she asked, clearly caught off guard. "Well," Stephen continued, leaning forward, "anonymous sources have claimed that you've been difficult to work with, that you've made unreasonable demands, even created hostile environments." Jennifer blinked, stunned. "I have no idea what you're talking about," she said, her voice more serious now. "I've always taken pride in being respectful and professional. Ask any director or producer I've worked with. They'll tell you the opposite." Colbert didn't back off. "These sources describe incidents, tantrums, special treatment, beyond what's considered typical for stars." Jennifer shifted in her seat, discomfort etched across her face. "Why are you bringing up anonymous gossip instead of discussing my work?" she asked. "This sounds more like tabloid chatter than journalism." "I'm just after the truth," Stephen replied, tone dripping with faux sincerity. "The public deserves to know who they're supporting at the box office." Jennifer's voice rose, frustration breaking through her composure. "The truth? I've been in this industry over a decade. My reputation has been built on professionalism and collaboration, and now I'm being ambushed with baseless rumors instead of having a real conversation." By her agitation, Colbert doubled down. "Well, since we're talking truth, what about your recent comments on pay equality in Hollywood? Some say your activism is just for show, that it's hypocritical coming from someone in such a privileged position." Jennifer's jaw tightened. "My advocacy for equal pay isn't a publicity stunt," she snapped. "It's about fairness, for all women in this industry. I've backed it with real action, even taking pay cuts and supporting legislation. That's not hypocrisy. It's integrity." You've made tens of millions, and now you're lecturing others about fairness. Don't you think that's a bit rich, coming from someone in your position?" Stephen's tone was growing sharper, more confrontational with each word. Jennifer didn't flinch. Her smile was gone now, replaced with a flash of fire behind her eyes. "No, Stephen. What's rich is you sitting here attacking me for trying to make this industry better for others." She shot back, her signature poise starting to crack. "I could easily cash my checks and stay silent, but I choose to speak up because it's the right thing to do." Stephen tilted his head, feigning curiosity. "Some would say you speak up because it keeps you in the headlines." His smirk was thin, insincere. The crowd could feel the tension climbing fast. Jennifer's eyes narrowed. She glanced at the audience, then back at her host. Her voice lowered, but her words cut deeper. "Are you seriously questioning my motives for fighting for equality?" There was steel in her tone now, a clear warning Stephen chose to ignore. "I'm just asking the questions people are thinking," he replied with mock innocence. "Isn't that what good journalism is?" Jennifer leaned in slightly, her voice slicing through the air. "Good journalism? This isn't journalism, Stephen. This is a tabloid hit job, dressed up as an interview. And frankly, I'm disappointed you'd stoop to this level." Stephen leaned back, clearly enjoying the reaction. "The audience deserves to hear all sides. We can't just ignore the elephant in the room." Jennifer raised her eyebrows, visibly fed up. "What elephant?" she snapped. "You mean the unnamed, unverified rumors you're treating like facts? Where's your evidence, Stephen? Where are the receipts?" "The fact is, multiple sources have come forward." "Anonymous sources," Jennifer interrupted, her voice rising. "No names, no proof, just vague accusations. That's not investigative reporting. It's character assassination, and it ruins lives." A heavy silence fell over the studio. The audience sat frozen, eyes darting between them. Stephen, sensing the discomfort but unwilling to back down, pivoted. "All right, let's talk about something more concrete. Your relationship with director David O. Russell. There were reports of explosive arguments on set, shouting, walkouts, threats to quit. Care to comment?" Jennifer's eyes blazed. "My working relationships are just that. Work. Creative disagreements happen. That's part of collaboration. Trying to twist normal professional tension into a scandal says more about you than it does about me." Stephen glanced down at his note cards with theatrical precision. "Witnesses described more than creative disagreements." Jennifer let out a bitter laugh. "More anonymous witnesses? You're hiding behind gossip, Stephen. You're not investigating. You're attacking. And I'm sitting right here." "I'm just doing my job." Stephen shrugged, feigning offense. "Your job is to entertain and have honest conversations, not ambush your guests with character hit pieces." Jennifer shot back. The facade was slipping. Stephen's frustration with her refusal to crumble was showing. "Maybe if you were more honest about who you really are, we wouldn't have to have this conversation." Jennifer stared at him, incredulous. "You don't know who I am. You've read gossip blogs instead of doing any real research. You didn't look at my work, my philanthropy, my professional relationships. You came here to tear me down." "I've done my research," Stephen said coldly. "And what I found is someone who presents one face to the public and another behind closed doors." That was it. Jennifer rose from her chair, startling both Stephen and the audience. "That's enough." Her voice was calm now, too calm. "I came here to talk about my film, my work, not to be ambushed with garbage rumors. This is over." Stephen sat up straighter, his tone turning cold and firm. "Sit down, Jennifer. We're not finished." "Oh, we're absolutely finished," she replied, her gaze steady. "I'm not going to sit here and let you assassinate my character for ratings." Stephen opened his mouth to regain control. "This is live television, Jennifer." But she was already walking off set. "You can't just walk away when the questions get tough. Watch me." Jennifer's reply was icy and effortless, but she didn't leave. Not yet. She remained standing, eyes locked on Stephen like a predator, assessing her target. Stephen turned to the audience with an exaggerated shrug, trying to salvage control. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is what happens when you ask celebrities the hard questions. They crack. They run. That was the breaking point." Jennifer took a step forward, her voice no longer calm but burning with fury. "The truth? You want to talk about truth, Stephen?" Her words echoed in the studio like a challenge. "The truth is, I've spent years treating people with dignity. I've used my platform to advocate for causes that matter, not to chase headlines. And the real truth, you ambushed me tonight, with gossip, with half-truths, with lies, because you're desperate for attention." "Those aren't lies," Stephen protested weakly, wilting under the spotlight. "Prove it," Jennifer demanded, her voice slicing through the silence. "Name your sources. Show your evidence. If you're so committed to truth, then practice journalism, not this cowardly tabloid smear job." Stephen fumbled through his note cards, visibly shaken. I can't name sources. I have to protect them." Jennifer's eyes narrowed. "How convenient. How very convenient that your sources need protection while spreading falsehoods about someone you invited here under the guise of professionalism." The audience was frozen. Some were visibly squirming in their seats, unsure whether they were witnessing an interview or a meltdown. Stephen tried once more to grab the reins. "Jennifer, I think you're overreacting. This is normal interview procedure." She laughed, a short, sharp sound devoid of humor. "Normal? There's nothing normal about what you've done here. You've crossed every line of ethics, of decency, of basic human respect. I'm just holding you accountable," he muttered, but his voice was hollow now. "Accountable? For what, Stephen? For success? For caring about something bigger than myself? If anyone should be held accountable right now, it's you." Stephen opened his mouth to interrupt, but Jennifer was beyond interruption. "You used your platform tonight to hurl unverified garbage and launch a personal attack. What was supposed to be a conversation about my work turned into a public ambush. That's not journalism. That's exploitation." The silence in the room was suffocating. Stephen looked around, hoping the audience would rally to him. But he found only stiff faces, crossed arms, and judgmental stares. Jennifer took one last look around. "You know what, Stephen?" she said, her voice calm again, but colder now, deadlier. "I've been in this business long enough to recognize a setup when I see one. This was never about a real interview. This was a trap. You brought me here to create controversy, not conversation." Stephen's facade began to slip. He shifted uncomfortably, his bravado dissolving under the lights. "I don't know what you're talking about. This is just how interviews work." "No, this is how ambushes work," she cut him off. "A real interview involves research, thoughtful questions, actual interest in someone's work. What you did tonight wasn't for your audience. It was for your ego." The crowd stirred. More nods now, murmurs of agreement. Stephen made one last, desperate appeal. "Jennifer, please, sit down. Let's finish this professionally." Jennifer stared at him, incredulous. "Professionally?" she repeated, the word dripping with disdain. "You forfeited professionalism the moment you opened with anonymous accusations instead of asking about the work I came here to discuss." Stephen glanced toward his producers, silently begging for help. But they were as stunned as the audience, frozen, unsure how to salvage what was quickly becoming a live implosion. "Look, maybe we just got off on the wrong foot." He tried again. Jennifer didn't even dignify that with a response. She simply turned, walked off the stage, and left him sitting there, alone, exposed, and unraveling in real time. "Why don't we start over and talk about your new film?" Stephen offered, grasping for a reset. Jennifer let out a cold, bitter laugh that echoed across the silent studio. "Start over?" she said, incredulous. "Stephen, you can't unring a bell. You can't spend 20 minutes dragging someone's name through the mud and then pretend it never happened." "I wasn't attacking you," Stephen protested weakly. "I was asking legitimate questions." Jennifer's eyes flashed. "Legitimate questions? Based on what? Anonymous sources you won't name? Rumors with no foundation? You're hiding behind gossip and calling it journalism. Real journalists don't work like this." Stephen fumbled with his note cards, clearly off balance. "The public has a right to know about the people they admire," he said. Jennifer shot back instantly. "The public has a right to accurate information, not salacious speculation dressed up as fact. What you've done tonight isn't journalism. It's character assassination. And frankly, it's beneath the platform you've been given." The audience was hooked, some visibly nodding, others applauding. Sensing the shift, Stephen made a final attempt to regain control. "I think you're being overly sensitive about what were really just standard questions." That did it. Jennifer's composure cracked. She took a step forward, voice low and dangerous. "Overly sensitive," she repeated. "You just spent 30 minutes trying to smear my reputation on national television, and I'm the one overreacting." "I was just doing my job," Stephen muttered. "Your job?" she fired back. "Your job is to have meaningful conversations. Your job is not to blindside your guests with gossip or turn your show into a glorified tabloid." Stephen's face was flushed now. Whether from shame or frustration, it was impossible to tell. His crew shifted uncomfortably in the wings. Jennifer wasn't done. "Jennifer, I think you need to calm down," he said, voice cracking. It was the worst thing he could have said. Jennifer's voice, now ice, cut through the studio. "Calm down? You attack my integrity, question my motives, paint my work as fake, and then you want me to calm down?" She turned to the audience, her words now addressing everyone. "This is why people distrust the media, because shows like this pretend to be journalism while abandoning every ethical standard real journalists follow." The audience erupted in applause. Stephen looked stricken, the momentum gone, the crowd no longer on his side. "Jennifer, please." "Please what?" she snapped. "Sit here quietly while you continue your hit job? Pretend this is all just part of the process? Enable your desperate reach for controversy at my expense?" His attempt at damage control was unraveling before him. He tried one last angle. "I think you're overreacting to a few simple questions," Jennifer laughed. Sharp, humorless, simple. "You accused me of being difficult, undermined my advocacy work, and called me a hypocrite. That's not journalism. It's a hit piece." She looked directly into the camera. "And the saddest part," I came here excited. I wanted to talk about my work, about storytelling, about things that actually matter. But instead I walked into an ambush. Stephen clung to whatever dignity remained. Well, this has certainly been an interesting conversation, he said. Jennifer blinked, incredulous. Interesting, she repeated. This wasn't a conversation. This was an attack disguised as an interview. And there's a massive difference. She began walking off stage. Stephen panicked. Jennifer, you can't just leave. We're still on the air. She turned back one last time, her expression unreadable. Stephen, you ended this interview the moment you chose sensationalism over ethics. I'm just making it official. This is completely unprofessional, he muttered. Jennifer stopped mid-step. Slowly, deliberately, she turned back. Her voice dropped to a devastating calm. Unprofessional? She echoed. She stepped toward his desk. You want to talk about unprofessional? Let's define it. She ticked off each point like a dagger. Unprofessional is ambushing your guest with anonymous gossip. Unprofessional is using your platform to smear people with zero accountability. Unprofessional is breaching the trust between a host and a guest for cheap ratings. And unprofessional, she leaned in, is daring to call me unprofessional when I call you out for it. Silence. Not a cough. Not a shuffle. Just Jennifer's voice ringing in every corner of the room. So yes, Stephen, someone here was unprofessional tonight. But it wasn't me. And with that, she turned and walked off stage, leaving Stephen alone, stunned and exposed. The audience applauded louder than ever. The camera lingered on Stephen's face, capturing the exact moment the ambush fell apart. He stared into the lens, his usual charm gone, replaced by the unmistakable look of a man who'd just lost control of his own. Show!